My presentation today is about building in the Filecoin ecosystem and the support structures that our team has to make sure builders are incredibly successful. I mentioned this earlier in the day, but there is no better time to join the Filecoin ecosystem than today. And that's because we have, for years, developed the system of education, hackathons, grants, accelerators, and on-ramps into capital and funding for builders all over the ecosystem. And we are pointing those resources at FVM builders very aggressively. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today and showcase the journey that developers can go through to build their hopes and dreams on FVM and Filecoin. Great. So as many of you know, your journey as a developer, as a founder, as an early builder, an entrepreneur is not linear. There are many paths to joining and bringing your hopes and dreams to reality. Some start through developer education, some join a hackathon to learn about some piece of technology like FVM. Some take grants and some take really deep advice on concentrated accelerator programs. And some are just repeat entrepreneurs that have been Web3 for a while and jump straight to a seed round or even a Series A round. We are committed to kind of helping that full journey, no matter where it starts or where it ends, for early FVM builders, and making sure that founders and entrepreneurs and builders succeed at all phases of those journey. So if you step back, the PL network, which is a whole group of companies that the PL has supported, building on Filecoin, IPFS, and Web3 at large. We have supported teams at all stages, from grant stages, which is kind of represented at the bottom, to seed rounds, which is that green bar, to Series A and Series B and Series D, even Series E funding rounds. And so folks can join through hackathons, but they can progress through this journey. And so far, over the last couple of years, we have supported over 500 teams in this kind of like builder's funnel environment and have pointed our resources at them. In total, those 500 plus teams have raised close to $500 million in funding, signaling tremendous interest in our general ecosystems across Filecoin, IPFS, and the PLN at large. And if you're kind of like interested in building that, this is the kind of opportunities that we're trying to put towards to help you. Furthermore, if you look at the kind of bottom two rows, which are more grant funding at the early stages, more than $17 million have been issued in grant funding by the Filecoin Foundation and Protocol Labs towards those teams getting started in our ecosystems. Now, at the early stage of the funnel, so if you're just getting started as a builder, there's a number of different paths to get your feet wet. Over the last couple years, PLN has developed a whole pipeline of services here, including hackathons, where just last year, 70,000 builders were exposed to Filecoin or IPFS or similar technologies and have published over 3,100 projects on hackathons.filecoin.io. We've issued countless micro grants and developer grants through the Filecoin Foundation and Protocol Labs, and there's a whole list of requests for startups that are specifically targeted at different tools and projects and services startups looking to build within these ecosystems. Now, what's really interesting is that we're starting to point those services at builders on FVM. So already Space Warp has issued FVM microgrants, has ran the biggest hackathon ever in the history of the Filecoin ecosystem, and are starting to get into other kind of like services like impact evaluators, accelerators, etc. In fact, one thing to celebrate is ETH Global's last hackathon, Space Warp, that had over 1,000 hackers participate, 280 project submissions in over 82 countries. And I just want to give a big round of applause to all those teams that presented today stemming from this hackathon. It's just remarkable to see. At the next phase, when you're kind of ready to get to a minimum viable product, starting to get in front of real customers, and start to really develop a company or a project with more traction, we have developed the Founders brand by Protocol Labs, which are acceleration services and portfolio support led by Ruben in the back there, who we'll hear from in a moment. Now, over the last few years, Founders has incubated 250 startups that have raised $200 million, partnering with over 20 accelerators, primarily in the Web3 space. And that is a remarkable kind of like launch pad for folks that have an MVP, but really need 3 months of focused attention, mentorship, capital to take it from an MVP into a really viable, fundable team or business. This has been an incredible kind of ecosystem for many, many teams, and they've really accelerated their funding. And I'm super excited to announce that there are 2 FVM-focused accelerator cohorts launching in the next few months. One led by Long Hash with Shakai over here, and 2 led by Graph Paper Capital, led by Gabriel, who's somewhere here as well. So give them a big round of applause. These are the early adopters for FVM-focused companies in our ecosystems, and they have recruited over $4 million in dedicated capital to get those teams off the ground. And we'll hear from those teams in just a minute. Finally, when you've progressed past the stage where you're in kind of growth stage mode, you've reached product market fit, and you need growth capital to expand your team, expand your services, the PL network has over 4,000 investors that we can start to connect you with to reach that next phase of adoption. And what we've done here is really try to focus a series of events to concentrate that capital on teams building roughly in the Filecoin ecosystem and the IPFS ecosystem as well. The first one of that we ran in September in Singapore. It was called Phil.vc, and it was so successful that it attracted 300 leading investors representing trillions of capital, and 26 startups pitched, with many of them leaving the room with term sheets and engaged investor conversations to fund their startups. So this was kind of our first try at this. It was an in-person event that was incredibly successful and led to like a tremendous amount of capital being concentrated at those 26 teams. I'm super happy to announce that on March 21st, we're going to be doing our next version of Phil.vc in a completely remote environment so we can attract investors all over the world and not just Asia. So huge round of applause for the Phil.vc team. This is going to kick off on March 21st. And if you're a startup, a builder that you feel like you're ready for that stage of capital attraction, please go to the Phil.vc website and applies to be featured as part of this event. And this was just a subset of some of the logos that were represented at Phil Singapore, which were super, super impressive to see folks in their live. So in conclusion, for FVM builders, there is literally no better time to join the Filecoin ecosystem. You have familiar technology with EVM-based smart contracts that you can build on. You have many developer on-ramps, hackathons, grants programs of various different sizes, and requests for startups in case you're searching for an idea. There are deep support for founders through our accelerator cohorts and phases and services. There's incredible VC interest, and increasingly so, in startups building on FVM. And of course, you have a thriving community to support you at every stage of the game. So huge round of applause for FVM builders. I'm super excited to call up a panel of builders and folks that'll talk about some of those services. Thank you very much.